Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. And today I'm going to talk some about balance, which is an idea that a lot of us have problems with in recovery. We are used to going to extremes, and our drug use and alcohol use are example of the extremes that we went through. And so I'm going to read a little bit today from The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. And one of the things that he references in this part of the book is the Tao. The Tao is the way. It was a book written by Lao Tzu, and it is a book that's discussed in a lot of spiritual literature regarding finding balance in life. And that's really the idea behind the Tao. It's, of course, much more complicated than I'm going to get into in this video, but a lot of people would argue that it's as simple as one word: balance. And that's something that we've always had a hard time with in our lives, both in active addiction and a lot of us in recovery, is finding balance between extremes. It's easy for us, for some reason, this is just kind of the personality we have. It's easy for us to throw ourselves 1000% into something, whether that's drug use or whether it's recovery. But finding that balance that leads to peace and serenity is more difficult for us, and we seem to have to work at it. And I've heard a lot of people in recovery express this as, I crave chaos in my life. I crave disruption. I crave drama. I try, if those things aren't present in my life, I create those things. And that is something we're used to doing in our drug and alcohol use. We're used to creating that drama, creating that chaos, seeking out situations, even if it's subconsciously, where those things exist and happen to us. And that's part of the extremes that we used to live at. And that's something that we, for some reason, get some kind of satisfaction from. So in recovery, it's important for us to look at that, to accept that part of ourselves, but to start to steer ourselves back toward the middle, the balanced part of life where we can actually find some peace, some serenity, and where we can relax a little bit. So I'm going to read a couple of things from the book. He talks about the Tao some, and then he talks about the idea of a pendulum, which I think is really helpful to think about. He says, from science, we know that if you pull a pendulum 30 degrees to the right, it will swing back until it's 30 degrees to the left. And so it will keep on doing this, and it will keep on swinging, and eventually it'll find a balance, and it'll sit right there behind the microphone. And so he gives an example. If you've been starving for days and somebody puts food in front of you, you won't be polite while eating. You will shove the food into your mouth like an animal. Once you get back to normal eating habits, then you'll eat a little bit more normally. So again, an extreme example, but an example to show how we go to different extremes and how, as time progresses, as things return to normal, our balance starts to come. So the question is, what's the right way to handle this in recovery? Because we have started with one extreme where we're at the extreme of drug and alcohol use. And then we're trying to get away from that drug and alcohol use. And so when I was in just starting recovery, when I was in treatment, the idea that was presented to me was you have to really, really engage in recovery and in a somewhat extreme way right at the beginning in order to get this pendulum swinging back to this other side where we want it to be. And for people working the AA program, that idea comes up in the idea of 90 meetings in 90 days. You dedicate yourself to your recovery in such a way that for 90 days, you're going to a meeting every day. And that was something that, initially felt very undoable to me. I didn't think I could do something like that. But I ended up doing some outpatient programs and outpatient work that actually took me past 90 days. And I can say that, part of the reason I think I'm sober today is because I did that. And it didn't last but 3 months. I was in treatment for a month, and then I did a 2-week intensive outpatient program of what was called a partial hospitalization program, where I was going every weekday into do from 9 to 2 recovery based meetings and education and things like that. And then I moved to an intensive outpatient program where 3 nights a week I was going for 3 hours. And I was also attending meetings during that time. And it was a very, very recovery heavy period of my life. But it was necessary to swing the pendulum over to this side. Now, once I got through that period, once I had established a little bit, I had established myself over on the side of sobriety and recovery, then I could let go just a little bit. I could let off the gas a little bit, and I could start coming back towards center, start the journey back towards center. I had to do this carefully and with guidance from people around me, because I don't want to let off the gas so fast that the pendulum swings back over into the drug use and alcohol use part of it. I wanted to let off just enough that the pendulum slowly just comes back to rest at center. And I think that is the important part of getting into a life of recovery, is that, you have to, for me at least, and for a lot of people that I've known, you have to throw yourself into it in the beginning. But you then have to look at where it's appropriate to start putting balance back into it and start, because we didn't get sober so that we could spend all our time in meetings. We got sober so we could live life and experience life. And so I don't want to live a life that is nothing but recovery. I want to live a life that is a balance of recovery and all the other awesome things that happen in life. Even though recovery and the principles that I've learned in recovery and the foundational spiritual system that I've learned in recovery weave themselves through every aspect of what I'm doing. Things like gratitude, things like the idea of helping others. These are ideas that I carry with me throughout the day. So I'm not talking about a separation, but I'm talking about a balance, and finding that balance between, what makes sense for you in terms of time spent with recovery, and also living life and enjoying the things that have very little to do with recovery. For some people, that balance includes a meeting every day, and that's fine. For some people, it doesn't. For some people, that balance includes meditating for 30 minutes or an hour every day. For some people, it doesn't. For some people, that balance includes exercise, healthy eating. The balance looks different for everyone. And part of your own journey is going to be to find what that balance looks like for you. For me, that balance is a very big mix of, getting up in the morning and doing recovery based things. I have friends that I speak with throughout the week about how they're doing and check in on. I sponsor people in the AA program, and I have meetings that I help to chair, and I have other meetings that I go to on a regular basis. And that sounds like a lot, but believe it or not, all of that stuff still leaves me with plenty of time for other things in life. Watching movies, playing music, listening to music, exercising, doing things with my family. All these beautiful things that I get to do now, that used to I didn't engage in because I was so busy drinking and getting high. So that balance starts to show up, and we start to see that we can maintain everything, especially if we just find the right dose of each of those things. And once we do that, we stop spinning our wheels, we stop wasting energy and time, and it becomes almost effortless to just live in this balanced state. It's work to maintain it, and I still don't get it right all of the time. So I'm still working on figuring out what does that balance look like, and it shifts over time. But that's the goal, is how do we get from a place where we're at extremes and into this place where we've got balance and where we can really just relax and enjoy the life that we experience as it happens. That's it for today. I'll be back here tomorrow with more.